So yeah, welcome. I'll just give you a quick second to read out this letter I found. Dear Roadmap, I'm leaving you because I can't trust you. You promised me that if I follow you, I will become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Instead, I have become fat, dumb, and unhappy. You paint me a bright future, but you never get us there. So that's the feeling of roadmaps. How, oh, of course that happens. Nope. That's gonna be better. All right. Sorry for that little hiccup. Hi, I am Nicolas. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a UX designer and digital product strategist at iCaps. And I've been here for over than 3 years now. Had very big clients, small clients, from large international companies to even smaller Belgian ones, with a local footprint, but also with a global footprint. So I've seen quite some roadmaps already, and I'm here today to talk about some learnings that I've encountered over those years. And that should work now. Oi, oi, oi. Technology, right? iCaps in a nutshell. I already introduced us very quickly. I'm gonna have a look if I didn't forget anything. So indeed, we do strategy, we do design, we do development, and we do the care and grow piece afterwards as well. So read the whole life cycle of a digital product. Nice to know is that we're celebrating our 15 years this year. Yay! Thank you. We don't have cake, but we have more pizza. So we're a workforce of over 100 people, which is pretty nice. And something cool to know is that we actually built the first iPhone app that came into the Belgian iOS store. Solo open kitchen app. I think they're Geert, yeah, worked on that as well. So that was quite some years ago, totally at the beginning. And also something nice to know, if think there were some people of Kronos here as well. But yeah, we're also part of that super immense cluster. Did I forget something? Don't think so. If you have questions about iCaps, I'm not sales, but I can always try to answer your questions. Some of our logos that we've worked for before. Again, some local ones like Blue Bike, Moscow. Some bigger ones like VC, Cybos, Swift. Probably recognize some of those. It's gonna be this difficult for each slide. It's gonna take us a long time. No. So yeah, today I'm gonna talk about the mastering road mapping in an agile world. And I'm gonna do that in 2 parts. First, I'm gonna explain you why we believe at iCaps there is a need for a new way of doing roadmaps. And I'm gonna teach you how to do that. And then in the second part, I'm gonna talk to you about the art of prioritization. So what are you actually putting in that roadmap? So each of those lines, those items that you wanna put in the roadmap, I'm gonna help you do that by some clever exercises and some clever tips. So first, why? Why is there a need for roadmaps in an agile world? As you see, we're in this kind of era, the VUCA world, as some of you might have heard before. The rough seas, nothing can be predicted. The only constant is change, etc., etc. That's why a roadmap doesn't work anymore. We work in a community with developers where everything is going very agile, so you can pivot really easily, but roadmaps aren't made for that, or at least how they used to be. Again, one of those quotes that we found is either you're going to disappoint the people you're addressing with the roadmap because it's exactly what you thought you wanted to deliver 6 months ago or 1 year ago, because at that point of time you thought that was the solution that was needed for that market fit. Or you're gonna have to change course and then the board might say, yeah, but it's not what you said was going to be delivered in the roadmap in the first place you produced. So there's a need for more agile roadmaps. And then you got something like this. This is actually it's an actual roadmap, believe it or not. It's the roadmap of the Pentagon in the United States of America. But yeah, it's hugely complex, and it proves again how rigid these roadmaps used to be. How difficult it was to pivot, and how difficult it was to edit and to change your course. But that's what's needed in this world. So I'm gonna teach you how to do it. So not only that we believe that roadmaps 2.0 should be more agile, we also believe that it's a tool to help communicate your strategy. It's basically a prototype for your strategy. It's gonna show you how you manage that prototype, that strategy over time. And it's an alignment tool. It's the tool you will use to communicate internally, to create buy-in, to create a consensus about what you're going to build. And not to forget, it's a living document. Again, it's not something rigid. Of course, I know there's gonna be some misunderstanding. Yeah, but you probably need some documents to say, okay, I'm gonna deliver this feature by this time, etc. That's what we believe is a release plan or a backlog. This is focused on outputs. It has, it's very much detailed, and it's very much on an immediate time horizon. Whereas the roadmap focuses more on the what and the why. It's a communication tool. It should be flexible, and it's focused on outcomes. So, yeah, that's the main thing I want to focus on. That. Next slide. Okay, so how? So now you've understood a little bit about, okay, why do we need these new kind of roadmaps, right? I'm gonna explain you a little bit what the components are of those roadmaps. First, focusing on product vision and strategy. Stakeholders next. Themes is something that I'm gonna deep dive into a little bit later. And then time frames. So these are key ingredients. As we believe at ICAPS, over the experience that we've gathered on projects, the elements that you should focus on for your roadmap 2.0. Very importantly is to gather the input from customers and stakeholders, because those will define your teams. But again, I'm jumping back on that one. So first of all, vision and strategy. This is where everything starts. You're gonna define a vision and a strategy for your digital product, and a roadmap is an effect of that. It's a translation of that vision and strategy. Without those two, you can't have a roadmap, because it's just gonna say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do a bit of everything, and then you don't have that vision, that strategy, which it should actually translate. And then, of course, it comes back to the backlog, the release document that I have already showed you and talked about. So, very important to have a vision and strategy that is aligned with your stakeholders. Second ingredient or main takeaway is make sure you map your stakeholders right in your whole exercise of road mapping. Since it's a strategic communication tool and it should create buy-in, welcome lightweight. It really is very important that you map those stakeholders. There will be people who will be actively contributing to your roadmap, and then there's people who shouldn't be involved. Maybe that's your users, but maybe you also want to include your users. It's very depending on what kind of organization it is. It's very important that you clearly define that for your case, for your digital product. Because based on who you will be targeting, you will disclose certain information from your roadmap, and some things you won't, right? All right, talking about teams. So we don't talk necessarily about features that we want to put in our roadmap, because that's pinning really down what you want to deliver at a certain time and doesn't leave much room for flexibility, for agility. So we like to define themes, and this could be objectives. So it might be, I want to increase user friendliness in the whole checkout experience. That's just precise enough and just flexible enough so you're still agile. And if something changes, if something might erupt, you saw this in take for example COVID, right? If you were focusing on the checkout experience in 2019 and you were booking or you were an airline company, you were probably doing the wrong thing, right? So you need to have this kind of theme that you can work around, that you can still prove of huge value to your stakeholders, to your users. So that's why we say pin yourselves on those themes, not necessarily on functionalities. Well, okay. I'm gonna give you an example. Who doesn't like traveling, right? So I created a little example of a digital platform, iTrips. What is iTrips doing? Their vision is to create for all digital natives around the world who want to optimize their travel experience before, during, and after their trips using the power of digital. The iTrips platform is a smart, proactive travel assistant that guarantees creating, safeguarding the best possible travel memories. So just setting a bit of a context here, we're trying to create a digital platform and we want to achieve that. That's our vision, that's what we want to create. Now, what is a theme then if your objectives are to simplify the travel administration, to get the most out of your travels as a user, or to relive those great moments afterwards? What could be themes? So themes could be surprise, surprise. No. Themes could be is that you actually translate those objectives. That reduce of FOMO. You can have even sub-themes where you focus on personalized inspiration, but it's not really saying or pinning down the actual feature that you want to deliver. Doing that might get you stuck at a certain point in that roadmap. So that's why we keep it quite broad and we use themes. Then I want to talk about timings. It's a very key ingredient in your roadmap. You could, in theory, in the past, say, okay, sprint 1 we want to do this, sprint 2 we want to deliver that, sprint 3, etc., etc. But again, that would be pinning yourself down. That's why we prefer timings like now, next, later. Because there's this thing we call the cone of uncertainty. At this point, everything is quite clear. But at a certain time in horizon X, might become very uncertain. You might not know what's coming at you. So that's why we try, or we focus on those time frames, making it a bit larger, saying now, next, later, or maybe Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. That's still broad enough to have some flexibility, but yet won't pin you down. And then what you see here in the beginning, you can really be quite more specific, talk about more of like feature level, but then later you might more want to talk about those themes, those goals, because otherwise you would be pinning yourself down. All right. And of course, not to forget, especially this one is very, very important, very clear for you to know, especially if you have that vision and that strategy clearly defined. You should know what you're not or never going to put in your roadmap. That's as important as all of those things that you will be putting into it. All right, and then bringing the ingredients together. As I said before, it's about those time frames. So now, next, later, you might have some themes which have some specific items on, and then you can start putting them from now to next to later, and that's the prioritization part I'm going to talk to you in a minute. But that's how it could look like. So you structure it by the themes. Some extra information that you might want to put into a roadmap. to give some context to the reader, just don't ever push the roadmap as you've seen in the slide of the Pentagon example. Don't ever send that just like that. They need to have some context. That's why it's interesting to put a vision statement into it. To say, okay, it's distant for this specific target group, target audience, that they know what is maybe left out. So if you're sending something to your sales team and it's actually something that it's only for internal use, to never share it outwards, right? And that brings me to the disclaimer as well. Sometimes it's interesting to say, hey, this is just a draft, or really make sure that you've got it quite covered and that they can't take it back onto you. All right. But it could take any forms. It could be a road like we see here on the left side, or it could be more into swing lanes. Really up to you what works best to communicate your strategic roadmap. So, some best practices about the why and about the how is that keep it simple, so that everyone that's reading your document can really understand the direction you're going to, what the end goal is, and what steps you're going to take to get there. Know also who's going to be reading your roadmap. Going back to the stakeholders, do that exercise to actually map your stakeholders and to define your roadmap. Again, it's all about focusing on outcomes versus the outputs, not the other way around, because then you're making something very rigid. Stepping back from the time frames like sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, etc. Focus on those bigger scopes like now, next, later. And also a very important one is try to separate discovery from delivery. So try to make teams where you say, okay, we're going to do this in the discovery phase, we're going to do this in the delivery phase, so that each person knows also where they're up to. We're calling that a dual track Agile. That might be something that we need to discuss in another UX Beers. I still probably could fill a whole hour on that one, but it's a very, very interesting one. And then include as well time to pay down the debts you have, the UX debt, the tech debt. Try to include that in your roadmap as well. All right, the art of prioritization. I'm gonna see. Still got what, 15 minutes or something? Cool. Yeah. Nice. All right, the art of prioritization. So now we know why we need a new roadmaps 2.0. We know how we're gonna structure it, but how do I know what I will have to put into it? What are the elements that I'm gonna go for, and what are the ones that I'm gonna leave out? All right. I don't know if you've met this guy who said, I'd like to build every single product feature idea that customers and stakeholders threw at me, because they're all valuable and I have all the resources I need. I don't think so. No one said that ever. You have to make choices in life, especially in digital product design and development, so you can't put everything on your roadmap. Gonna talk to you some pitfalls when prioritization, or when prioritizing. Whoa. So don't ever put things into the roadmap based on gut feeling. Don't say, I'm gonna do this now, and do this next, and I'm gonna do this later. Because gut feeling changes. It's not very much a structured way to prioritize things. And if your boss thinks this week you should be doing that, and next week you should be doing something else, yeah, that's bound to cause problems. Don't base yourself, and I'm not attacking these guys personally, but don't base yourselves on analytics reports saying the 10 new trends of 2025 or this, and this, and now we're gonna do everything on our roadmap to do what UI is saying, or PwC. No, you're the one who knows the market. You're the one who knows your clients, your users, etc. So make up your own mind and include the things in your roadmap that you want. Again, popularity. No, don't put things in your roadmap based on what everyone wants. Don't base yourself on consensus, again, because you are the one who knows best for your business. If you've got, you know, a good feeling with your clients, and that's another one. Don't base yourself on what your biggest client is saying, because then you might miss out on a whole lot of clients that are not speaking up and including things in your roadmap. Don't be the #MeToo kind of company. I'm saying that don't copy the things that your competition is doing. Again, because they might have another focus, they might have another vision, they might have another strategy to get somewhere. If everything was doing the same thing, it would be kind of a boring world. So try to put your own stamp on your roadmap and try to create your own roadmap, your own product. Don't base yourself too much on sales. They have a pretty good sense of what is living out there in the world, but they're mainly focused on, and I don't say this as a very much like as a commentary or bad feedback, but they may want to close deals, right? And so what's going to help me today in closing a deal tomorrow, that should be on the roadmap, but that's not how it works. You need to have some focus and really define for yourself where you're going to. All right, some backgrounds on the pitfalls, but how do we actually do it? So we have a empty roadmap here. We're gonna first do the bigger buckets. So I'm gonna first focus on what I'm gonna put now, gonna put in next, gonna put in later, maybe some things in never. Sometimes it feels like a guessing game, and that's okay if it's based on research, of course. But what I would actually, yeah, that's what I said. What I would be careful of, English, is that you don't overanalyze things. At this point, it's not necessary to dive into Excels and into sheets and give everything scores and use 10 different parameters to define those now, next, later. It's pretty simple work, actually. There is a tool, the opportunity matrix. It's just 2 axes, and it's gonna be, for example, the importance of the user needs based on UX research, or another one could be the x-axis could be the user satisfaction with current alternatives, and then you can plot your items, that the teams that you're gonna think gonna solve those problems on your product. What you would want to do then is you prioritize things by measuring the distance to the top left corner. So on the top left corner is where people are dissatisfied the most, and it's a very important user need. So that's why we measure from the top left corner, and then you can define those big buckets and say where things are going. You can do that with value versus effort, also very known, but you can play around with all of those axes and actually combine things and say, okay, I want to do a graph on business value and one on technical investment. And that's the point that you also want to include your stakeholders. So get them in the room, talk about it, use post-its, do it very interactively, but don't dive into Excel sheets and don't start doing things very meticulously. There's a time where that could actually work. And that's step 2, right? So we've got those big buckets. We know what we're not gonna do because it's not proving a lot of value. Now we're focusing on the first bucket. We want to know, okay, what is item 1.1, 1.2, etc. So we want to know item per item how we're gonna form this roadmap. And that's where we use something we call the Holy Trinity. It's to combine, actually, if I could draw a graph with 3 axes, I would, but I just used this Venn diagram. It's to analyze the items based on, can we build it? Should we build it because our users want it? And is it good for business? Are we getting something in return, right? And that's how you want to prioritize them. Then there might also be a very important one, it's the confidence level. So how sure are we that we're building the right thing? And then you could focus on, or you could argue with your team, how confident are we that the users want it? Do we still need to do some more research, some more discovery? How feasible is it? Do we know everything to know it's technically feasible? And that's why this confidence level is quite important as well. And then you get into your sheets and into your Excels, where you could, very basic still, but you could assign t-shirt sizing, so L for a big needs, a small for a small needs, and then you could fill this in based on the workshop. This is a workshop that we actually do run at iCaps. It's working pretty well. And this sheet is divided in the business objectives, the confidence you have that it delivers value, the customer value, etc., etc. And then there comes a score out of it, and you can distill a priority in those items. This goes already quite deep into the item itself, into the team itself. So that's where you would want to end up to eventually. Again, I want to really emphasize the fact, of course, UX or a design presentation isn't complete without a picture of Steve Jobs. But it's really being as proud about the things that you don't put into your roadmap as the things that you're actually putting into. Boom. All right, so some best practice. In the first step, don't overanalyze. Try to do it in a kind of co-creation workshop kind of thing, and to define those big buckets, that high-level prioritization. Step 2 is try to take into account that holy trinity combined with that confidence level to define the teams, the priority of those teams that you want to deliver. Say no to things, include the right people. Again, it's not something that you do as a UX designer or a PO has to be involved or ask people to play an important role in this process. And then don't make assumptions. There will be times that you don't know all of the information to put it on your roadmap. Again, strip out that discovery from that deliver, and do some research if you have to. There's no shame in that. If you want to know more, if you want to deep dive some more into that, we've got free ebooks. We've got them print over here, but it's more sustainable to download it and to leave behind some information. But yeah, we've got some on digital product strategy. It's a really nice ebook where we make the analogy of pop and rock classics with digital product strategy. It sounds very vague if I speak about it, but Geert, who is in the room, knows all about it. It's pretty cool, and it really emphasizes on that vision and on that strategy. And then we've got the ebook that I just talked to you about, which goes a little bit more into detail and gives you a nice format to do that actual analysis of how to define those specific items into depth and with all of those parameters to prioritize. So those are the ebooks. We've got plenty more. Have a look at that. And I have still something to announce. We're looking for actually some new colleagues. UX designer, product strategist. It's quite fun. I'm doing it. I've been doing it for 3 years. Looking forward to meet some of you. Catch up with me if you're interested. Thank you very much.
screen terug opzetten.
Wacht, hij staat precies.
Ja, en
De
je mocht hem
stream is niet
eigenlijk...
uitgevallen. Alleen, wat ik een beetje vreemd vond,